Hello and welcome to another Tabletop Games Blog Saturday review. Deep purple looks good. Life's the Peach is also very warm and rich. Oh, and of course we want the Cactus Jack. That will be the perfect triad of colours. You step back and look at the colour samples you just painted onto the wall in the kitchen. Yes, that's it. You're so pleased to have come up with this perfect colour scheme. It had been harder than you'd expected. Mixing the 13 cyan, 14 magenta and 15 yellow in the right combination had been a bit of a job, let alone getting all the red, green and blue to mix up the cyan, magenta and yellow, but the result was more than worth it. Yes, you say out loud, that's the perfect Swatch by Minerva Tabletop. However, don't let me spoil all the wonderful Swatch names you can find in the game. They are very creative and some of them will definitely make you smile. Yet the game isn't about the names so much, but about managing your base colours so that you can mix them into the right amount of cyan, magenta and yellow to then mix the final colour swatches that you need to end the game. It is even more about deciding which card to take from the active row of cards, and to manage your hand carefully, because the cards are the actions you take on your turn. It sounds a bit confusing, and for the first 2 or 3 turns in your first game, you're not quite sure what you're trying to do. But very quickly it all becomes clear and you start to add the base colours, red, green and blue, to your resource pool, mix them into cyan, magenta and yellow, so that you can eventually take one of the swatch colours, who are named so imaginatively. And once you got the correct 3 swatches, the end game is triggered. It's the usual fare of taking the right cards to get the resources you need and to mix them at the right time and in the right amount to get closer to your goal. The twist is that turn order isn't fixed in Swatch, and depending on which card you take from the active row of possible ones, your position in the next round will be different. A really good card near the end of the row means you go later in the next round, so sometimes it's better to take a worse card but ensure you get the first pick from the next row, and you can always see 2 rows of cards ahead and therefore can plan ahead and play quite strategically. However, the other players will have similar thoughts, and once you have played the game a few times, you will start to look at what everyone else is doing and try and stop them by taking the cards they need, even if they don't benefit you quite so much. So the player interaction in Swatch is quite high because of this, and there's even a card that allows you to swap one of your colour discs with either the pool of resources or another player, which again gives you the opportunity to slow them down. The game goes one step further by offering 4 slightly different variants of each swatch colour, so when 2 or more players need the same colour, the first to get it will force the other players to readjust their planning to cater for the slightly different colour requirements. So even though the 3 offer rows create a lot of randomness in Swatch, everyone can see the next 2 rows, allowing everyone to plan ahead. And if you're the last player in one round, you can actually skip ahead a row and reserve the card you need. Sure, you lose a turn, but that might actually be most beneficial to you. So Swatch really encourages formulating a rough strategy and wants you to plan ahead. Its randomness is completely overshadowed by the level of player interaction and the ability to plan ahead. There's one more twist in the game though, which I really love. The game just doesn't end when someone has got the 3 swatch colours they need for their scheme, which is basically the game objective. Instead, the game continues if that player still has colour left in their hand. The other players carry on taking their turns for as many rounds as the player who got their scheme completed has colour cubes and discs left. So if you're a bit too greedy and hoard lots of colours and get your 3 swatches very quickly, you can still lose the game if someone else completes their scheme but has less colours left than you. It really forces you to plan ahead a lot to ensure you use your actions efficiently and effectively. It's absolutely brilliant. I also love that this game is the debut for the designer who is publishing this game himself through Kickstarter. I think it's amazing and deserves your support. I certainly have my name down to get my own copy, and I hope you join me. Thank you for listening to this Tabletop Games Blog Saturday Review podcast. Please check the description below for links mentioned in this episode, as well as to the written version of this article on the blog. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, give us some stars or leave a review. Please also tell your friends about me, and if you want to offer financial support, check out my Patreon and Ko-fi pages, links to which you'll find in the blog at tabletopgamesblog.com. So thank you again for listening, and I hope to see you again soon. This podcast was made possible by the generous help of my Patreon supporters: Royal Patron Sean Newman, Castle Guard David Miller, Dice Masters Alex Bardi, Paul Grogan and James Naylor, and Shining Lights Robin Kay, Sarah Reed, Tim Vernick and We're Not Wizards.